And we're back again. Good morning, everybody. Hey, I'm Mike Morawski, and this is the Mic Drop Show. Hey, for those of you that don't know me, I built a real estate company that controlled over 4,000 apartments, 5 different markets, $60 million in assets, and a property management company managing 7,500 doors. Yeah, we were valued at over $100 million. We had raised $18 million in other people's money that they trusted us with. And you know what? I lost it all. And then I found myself in federal prison. Let me back up because I understand the fall, and you have to understand the climb in order to understand the fall. I started as a general contractor in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. I built that business up to about $5 million a year in revenue, sold it, then went into real estate. Was an agent, built a team doing over $20 million a year in sales production. And it was good. I want to be honest with you about that because false modesty doesn't teach anybody anything. I was really good at the climb. I knew how to find a deal. I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to build a team and cast a vision and get folks to run through the wall with me. 2005, I started a private equity firm. I raised $18 million in private capital and bought 4,000 apartment units in 5 markets across the U.S. With $60 million in real estate. From the outside, I was the guy. I had a portfolio, I had a team, I had a company, I had a reputation, the whole thing. And here's the first lesson I learned. And I want you to write this down. You know what, if you're driving this morning, you might not want to be taking notes, but maybe pull over. But I want you to write this down. Success can be the most dangerous thing that ever happens to you because it makes you stop questioning yourself. It makes you stop questioning the process and the direction that you're headed in. When you're winning, nobody checks the foundation. You don't check the foundation. The deals are closing. The checks are clearing. Everybody's happy. And the better and better it gets, the less you look down at what you're standing on. I wasn't standing on much. I just couldn't see it yet. Then 2008 happened. And, some of you may remember 2008. Some of you might be too young to remember, but you're reading it in the history books. You know what? Now everybody remembers 2008. The whole world cracked open, frozen credit, values dropped, lenders stopped lending. People who were your best friends were no longer your best friends. Investors started to lose. In 2007, to 2009, it started to get ugly. You know what? But here's what I need you to hear. And this is the part people get wrong. When they tell my story about 2008 didn't take me down. 2008 just turned the lights on so I could finally see the choices I had been making in the dark. You know what? When the pressure hit, I had a decision to make. Honest decisions and easy decisions in the moment. Scared, scrambling, trying to protect the company and protect my investors and to protect my own ego. I let my transparency slip. I want to be very precise about the word transparency. I didn't wake up one day and decide, hey, I'm going to break the law. I'm going to be a criminal. That's not how it happens. It's never how it happens, actually. It happens one number at a time, one conversation you don't have, one report you soften, one thing you tell yourself you'll fix next quarter. And when things turn around, lack of transparency is a slow leak. It's like plugging a hole in a boat that's sinking. It's not a blowout. You don't notice it until you're already on the rim, sparks flying, and by then you're going to go too fast. And all of a sudden you hit that brick wall. I operated out of chaos. I operated out of fear. I made decisions defensively instead of honestly, and the company imploded. You know what? I tried to do the right thing. I tried to make everything, continue to float. But here's one thing that I have to own: all the way. Those weren't 2008 decisions; they were mine. The market cracked, the pressure, got to me, I chose the response every single time. Hey, if you think one thing from this whole episode, think this: the market's going to test you. It's supposed to test you. That's what it's designed for. But the market doesn't make you cut corners. That's something you do on your own. And the day you start blaming the conditions for your character is the day you've already lost. You just don't have the paperwork yet. I was charged with wire fraud and mail fraud and was sentenced to a 10-year federal prison sentence. Let me tell you what that's actually like, because we throw the word prison around like it's a plot or a story. It's not. It's a way of life for a decade. Can you imagine losing a decade of your life, being ripped from the life that you currently know? And let me tell you that the life I currently knew, I didn't drive a big fancy car. I didn't have a big fancy house. I was putting deals together. I was meeting investors and growing my business. I was the neighborhood baseball coach home most nights for dinner. And I got ripped from that lifestyle to live in a 12 by 12 room with three men I didn't know, nor did I like, wondering what the hell happened to my life. You lose everything. And then what? Portfolio's gone, the titles are gone, the reputation is gone. The 30 years I spent building gone. At the time, it was 20 years. You're in the news. People thought you were friends. Stop writing, stop calling, stop talking to you, and you sit there in places designed to take your dignity. And you have to answer one question: who am I? And when everything is gone, what have I built? The other loss is my family, right? Children that don't talk to me anymore today, relationships that are unrepairable, right? So think about it. Most people never have the answer to that question. I had 8 years to sit with it and think about it. And here's what I found. And this is where things started to turn. It's where a whole thing changes, right? We're all faced with defining moments. You can go to the right or you can go to the left, but it's a defining moment. Which way are you going to go? I realized I had two options. I could spend the years being a victim of what happened to me, or I could spend the years figuring out what I was going to do and how I was going to help others. Same 8 years, completely different outlook. It's that decision in life. Let me tell you how that happened, right? I go to prison. I get ripped from that lifestyle. I'm 35 pounds overweight. I went from running marathons to hating myself, wondering what the hell happened and what was I going to do next? Completely different world. I had choices to make, though. I walk in the gym one day and I wasn't looking to work out. I wasn't looking to pick up a weight or get in shape. I hated myself. So what was it worth? Well, a guy walks up to me and he says, "Hey, don't let these people beat you. They only want to take from you everything you've ever known. They can destroy your business, destroy your family, but what they can't take is your mind. And they can't take who you are and what you've done and how you can rebuild things." Boy, I'll tell you what, it was like somebody flipped a light switch at that moment. My whole life changed in front of me. And I had a desire to make a difference. You know what? He said, "Hey, come to my class, start working out. You'll start feeling better," which I did. And I started going to his class. I started working out. I started to lose weight. You know what? I realized at that point I had two options. I could spend the years being a victim of what happened, or I could spend the years figuring out what to do next. You know what? So I made the decision. I decided I was going to become useful. Here's what most people don't know about my story. I didn't wait until I got out to rebuild. I started inside. You know what? I taught real estate investing and property management classes for 6 years. I wrote an ethics course and I taught real estate real ethics in prison. You know what? How ironic, a federal inmate teaching ethics. Guys who needed something came up to me. I helped them make differences in their life. One of the greatest stories I can tell is there was a guy that the night before he went home after he had taken my courses for 2 years consistently said to me, if I would have known I could have made this much money selling real estate, I'd have never sold drugs. What really got me was when he said, I would have never hurt anybody. That made a difference. I knew then I was making an impact and I was going to come home and make an impact. Me, the guy who lost everything, wow, failure was an option at that point. And I taught those classes because I wanted to help people, but I was growing as a result of it too. So who's got more credibility today? Right? You pay for things that you've done. Hey, a couple other things that I did while I was gone. I wrote a couple of books. I wrote another book when I came home called The Multifamily Investment Secrets, Your Explosive Guide to Wealth in Multifamily Real Estate. Hey, if you're somebody looking to grow your real estate business, jump on Amazon and grab this book. It's a great place to get it. Or you can get it on my website at multifamilyinvestmentsecrets.com. You know what else happened? I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in theology. I was on an outreach program. I'd go into the community. I'd tell my story to small business owners. And I wound up meeting a professor at the University of Minnesota. He and I wrote a ethics paper that got published in the Business Journal of Ethics. And you know what? If you want a copy of it, I'll send it to you. But it gets taught today at the collegiate level for forensic accounting and sales and marketing classes. You know what? Making a difference, right? You don't get to choose your lessons. You only get to choose what you do with them. You know what? Let me say that one more time. You don't get to choose your lessons. You only get to choose what you do with them. You know what? I made a decision at that point throughout that time to make a difference, to use that lesson for a greater good. And that's what I do every day. Transparency isn't a value. It's a system. Hoping you'll be honest is not a plan. Building a structure that forces it. Independent reporting, real numbers to your investors, even when the numbers are ugly, especially when they're ugly. Be honest. Make the call. You know what? You have to have an exit plan before you buy. I wrote a whole book on that called Exit Plan. It's you really need to have that exit plan before you ever get to the acquisition closing table, right? The money might be there, but there's danger if you're not paying attention to what's going on. I talk about 5 mistakes that I made, right? When I tell my story publicly, when I'm out there sharing or on a podcast, I talk about 5 mistakes. One is I grew too fast as a company. I had no business buying 2,000 units in 1 year or more than that. I had no business scaling a company that large. There's a lot of failure in unsteadiness. I was undercapitalized. I didn't have enough money to run a business that I hired 100 people to work at. I was over leveraged. I owned $60 million worth of real estate at 85% loan to value. I mean, that's brain damage. Banks today don't even let you get anywhere near that. You should be underwriting deals at 85%. I work with my coaching clients and I teach them, how to look at leverage. I didn't pay attention to details. You know what? A decade ago or longer, asset management was not talked about, but that's so important. Deals are made and broken today at the asset management level. You know what? And then the 5th thing was that I didn't listen to people around me. Hey, there were people around me that saw things going on that I was missing, that I was naive to, but you know what? I didn't pay attention. And then I didn't listen to them. And then when it was too late and you look back and you go, oh my God, you know what? It never fails. Every time I have the opportunity to tell my story and I share my story in a live setting, someone always comes up to me and says, hey, you know what? You just made a difference. I was going to make this decision and now decided to make this decision. I'm going to go in this direction now. You have choices. What are you doing with your choices? There's 3 pressures that reveal your character. It doesn't create it, it reveals it. So decide who you are before the storm, because in the storm, you won't have time to decide. You'll just default to whatever you already are. The time to build your integrity is when everything's calm and nobody's watching. For your network is your net worth, but only if you've been honest with them. So you have to continue to show up and be the person that you are, not somebody you're not. Your mess is somebody else's roadmap. So, just because you made a mistake, or just because your background has you focused as maybe sexual abuse or alcoholism or drug abuse or gambling or something that you think is defining you, it doesn't define you. Your mess is somebody else's roadmap. I lost 8 years, and I'm not going to dress that up. But I'd be lying if I told you that I give them back, because, the man talking to you right now doesn't exist without them. My ego was out of control. I thought I had the world by the short hairs. Here's what I found out, though. I want you to build, and I want you to build big. Go build a 4,000 unit apartment portfolio. Raise the capital, chase the vision of it all. But I want you to build it on a foundation that you can survive another 2008. Because you know what? You never know. One might be coming again. We're not in one today, and one's not happening now. It's lighter than that, but it's still a downturn. There's no geniuses in this business. There's only market cycles, So build it honestly, build it with transparency, build what you want so your worst day doesn't show up. Build it on a foundation, a solid foundation. You know what? If this hit you today, if you're in a hard spot, trying to learn a hard lesson, if you're an investor who needs an exit plan before you buy, or you just needed to hear that the bottom isn't the end of your story, do 3 things for me. And I'm going to ask you for a favor. Subscribe to the Mic Drop Show, because this is the kind of conversation that I have here every week. Every Wednesday morning, I show up for you. I show up to bring you evidence of reconciliation. I show up to bring you evidence of building, of a future, of transparency and integrity. You know what? Subscribe to the Mic Drop Show, because you never know where the conversation's going to go. And if you think somebody needs to hear this episode, send it to them, right? Copy them in. And if you want to go deeper, and if you want help building your portfolio the right way, through systems and accountabilities that I didn't have before, but I've come to find out what they are, call me. I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'm a coach. The second thing is, maybe you need to take on some coaching for yourself. I work with people 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, to help them grow, to help them scale. You know what? And none of us grow professionally unless we're growing personally. And the best way to grow personally is through coaching. And, one more thing about coaching is that, in downturns, when people start dimming the lights and the lights start going out and the cash flow gets slow, they give up coaching. Why? That's when you need it most. That's when you need the inspiration, the accountability, the help to transform your life and your business. You know what? The people who stay focused and stay intent today are the ones that are going to be successful tomorrow as this market changes. No pressure. The door's open whenever you're ready. Don't hesitate. And then the third thing is, you know what? If you would just subscribe to my Instagram, you know what? Follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok. I'm always bringing great content out, and I want to continue to share with you. You know what? You don't need to choose your lessons. You only get to choose what you're going to do with them. So hopefully I brought a couple of lessons to you this morning. If anything resonated, you need a conversation, reach out, call me. I'm more than happy to talk with you. But go do something. Go do something for yourself and somebody around you. Go do something that makes a difference. Hey, I'm Mike Morawski. This was the Mic Drop Show, and we will see you next week.